glad everyone could make it. Creative Mornings is where we're at, and we have got a fantastic lineup this morning. I'm really, really excited. But before we start talking about where we're going, I got to do the housekeeping as usual. And the first piece of housekeeping is to really let everyone know how this all comes about. And we have some folks here on the ground locally who really help us out. Mateo's been shooting the last couple of events, and he's in the back here in 360 VR. So once this is all done, we'll be able to post some of that up, and you'll be able to see this in that format. Nexa has got Pablo joining us today. He's shooting also video, which is fantastic. The Trip Hotel lets us use this space, and the Nest, where we will be next month at their grand opening, which is on the 28th of October on a Sunday. That's when that'll be. That's going to be downstairs in that space, which is where we're going to live. The theme is Pioneer, and we have the creative scientist from Mars Candy Bars joining us to walk us through this pioneering world that she lives in with creativity, candy, and packaging, and more. So that's going to be kind of cool. So put that on your calendar and let people know, and I'll remind you as well. And Inner Fight, you can see we have Luna in the back taking photos for us. If you don't know Inner Fight, exercise guys and folks at CrossFit, they join us and they help us out. It really is a community that makes this happen, as well as the volunteers. Ian Michael is here, Dale over here, Rhonda also. We all sort of just team together to put this together and really try to get the word out, and we're going to have a good conversation with the weatherman and woman so that they can cooperate with fog and things. But the idea is really that we bring together a group of people like yourselves who are in the creative communities, who are interested in how things are happening around us. We do it on a theme. The theme is decided globally. There's 170 chapters around the world that do this once a month. And it's kind of cool because that whole thing is funded through people like Adobe, WordPress, Shutterstock, not Snap. Maybe Snapchat wants to join. Shutterstock, and did I miss anyone? MailChimp, of course, you get all the mail from us. These people all put together, they fund this global initiative so that we can make this happen. It doesn't cost us anything. People give up their time, and it's this global sharing community to help enlighten and ask questions and make things work. And so we've got two fantastic guests joining us today. But before I get to that, one more thing. Dale is not only helps us with all the organization, but he's also our resident musicologist. And you will have been listening to some tunes as you came in, and he curates the playlist. So I'll post it all up. We'll post it all up and send it out to everyone so you can know why and what we played as you were coming in for the first half hour. But Dale, you want to just give us the run?
For sure, yeah. So it turned out to be more difficult than I expected to find songs about compassion. So if you have any suggestions, I'll add them to the list. But first up, The Weight from the band, if anyone remembers that song from, what was that, mid-70s? Lean on Me, Bill Withers. Shelter from the Storm, Bob Dylan. And I always like to throw some movie music in, so I put in the theme from Schindler's List, John Williams. And Heal the World, Michael Jackson. And Stand By Me, and that's by Ben E. King. But the version I included was by Playing for a Change, and it must have been about 7 years ago. They got musicians from all around the world to record on the same track. And so you had a mix of different music culture and all on this great tune. So that's our list for this month.
And we encourage you to download it. If you've got ideas you want to add to it, please do. And we love to share. It's a sharing community. So thank you very much.
All right.
Awesome. So we need to get started. Compassion racked our brains on how are we going to play with this topic and where are we going to go with it. And one of the first places that came to mind was the Ramadan Sharing Fridge initiative, which is the coolest initiative because how many fridges you had last year? 150 or 170, 150 the year before, on a closed Facebook group, which, wow. And also the idea that igniting people's imaginations using social media and other tools to get people to not only talk about something, but do something. And so it was just very logical that Janine Ben-Soda and Asma, I don't even want to get your name because I've been saying your name so long already.
Asma le mieux.
There we go. Janine and Asma graciously agreed to come on in and talk to us about the initiative and about taking this a step further about how they deal with social and other technologies and ideas and activation, and I thought, they're two perfect people to do that. And so I want to invite you both to come on up, and they've got a great presentation for us, but it's also a conversation. So they'll let you know how they want to work that. Typically we invite questions at the end, but maybe you're going to want people to interject as we're going. It's really a collaborative group. We really like the idea that you're not just listening, you're also getting to take something home with you. So Asma and Janine, please come on up. Great to see you.
Thank you very much. Do you mind if I just Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for making time to be with us today. My name is Janine Bensouda. I'd like to also introduce Asma and Aisha, who are all here today representing actually over 25,000 people. So when you see us up here, we're only the voices of the community who have really brought this amazing idea to life. And we just want to, remind everybody about that. I wanted to start with a question to you all. How many times have you been at a gas station, or maybe you've stopped at a traffic light, or you've been walking maybe even in the restroom in a hotel, and you've seen somebody working there, and you just felt like you wanted to have a conversation with them, or you wanted to give them a tip, or you felt like sharing your water or some food that you had with them, just because it felt like the right thing to do. Probably many times. And have you ever thought, I wonder how many other people are doing this as well? And then I wonder whether you ever took it a bit further and thought, I wonder whether if we all did it in a coordinated way, would there be an even greater impact? And that's the story of the Ramadan Sharing Fridges. It's not that people aren't showing compassion anyway. People are showing compassion, you and us, and we're all showing compassion in our lives in different ways. But it's really what happens when you give people access to a channel to network and collaborate and do the good together, and what kind of an impact can that have? So the story we're going to share with you today, and the discussion that we're going to have, is about how you go from all these remote people doing little bits and pieces of good to a situation where suddenly you're providing food and water and juices, and more than that, love and dialogue and connection and relating and recognizing people who work with you every day on a scale of over 15 to 20,000 people a day. So before we get into it, we'd like to just show you one of the videos. And there are a lot of them. A lot of these videos on social media you'll find. Can everyone see the...
There is always a lot of construction going on in the UAE because it's a young country that's growing very quickly. So there are literally millions of laborers.
Majority of the workers are here, they're away from their families, their fathers, they're a brother, they're a son to someone, and they're here as laborers to do mainly outdoor work.
मेरा नाम जहांगीर हुसैन याद आता है फैमिली को जो बाप का लिए माँ का लिए दुआई में आया बहन वो लोग का लिए अच्छा के लिए वो लोग मुल्क में अच्छे से चलने गए इसलिए मैं आया फैमिली के लिए
They're away from their families, so the least we could possibly do is make their lives slightly easier. I was looking to do something, and we decided to put out a fridge outside, and we said, it'll be easier for the gardeners to access it and have drinks.
Setting up of a group page, this information started to be transmitted to more and more people.
Just saying PM me for the address, like my phone just completely, it was like going off non-stop.
That one fridge became a community, and then that community became about 25,000 people and over 170 fridges.
रमजान में ठंडा पानी जूस जो भी हो फ्रिज में हम लोग पीते हैं.
I mean, we talk about 10,000 plus people a day that were benefiting from the food and the drink in the fridges. And that's something pretty phenomenal when you think about it. This was an initiative that brought everyone together.
It was beautiful. It was really magical. Just the simple fact of togetherness. We can share at any level if we only have the will to.
Everyone came together in this group, and we just proved that, if you put your hands together, you can make something good come out of it.
Remember that sound from years ago. I didn't know no still existed. Anyway, so what happened? And there are a few things we're going to talk about today. One of them is, of course, sponsorship, because when things start turning into a movement, you start to see brands and all kinds of organizations offering a lot of help. Now, for us, the point was, Ramadan is an amazing time of the year, yes. However, it's just one example of this could be any time of the year. And in fact, later on when we talk about where next and where do we go to next, that's something that we'll talk about. But Ramadan was a great platform, especially in our part of the world, where there's almost a blanket, like a carte blanche for people to do whatever they want as positive initiatives for the community. So when this started off in 2016, it started off in the the Lake Springs Meadows area, up just not far from here, a few kilometers away. And what happened was, as a matter of goodwill during Ramadan, a few people would put the fridges outside their house, and there was a Facebook group for the Meadows, Lakes, and Springs, where people from that community communicate with each other. And so somebody put out, a post saying, okay, I've got a fridge outside my house. If anybody wants to contribute, then feel free to do so. And for a couple of years that was happening, 2013, 14, 15, but it was still, kind of very limited to just the people around those streets. And then in 2016, something changed. And what changed was, Fikra, who had what we call fridge number one, she was moving and she couldn't keep her fridge. And so she put up a post and said, does anybody want the fridge? A whole bunch of us responded and said, yeah, I'll take it. Sumaya was the one who connected with her first. And so Sumaya took the fridge, and Sumaya put up a post saying, I've got the fridge now. If anybody wants to contribute, then I'll PM me and I'll send you my address. Then things started to go cuckoo. Boom, 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 boom. That's what she's talking about. And I went back and I actually tracked all of the conversations at that time. It's incredible. So 2, 10, 20, 50, 80. So then, of course, she said, hang on a second. I can't PM everybody individually. And I don't want to hijack this other Facebook page, which is for general community things. We can't hijack it with one conversation. So she set up another Facebook group called Ramadan Fridges. So we all migrated there, and that's when people started sharing it on their Facebook pages and in their social media. And literally, within a week, there was over 1,500 members. Within 2 weeks, it was like 10,000. It was unbelievable. And behind the scenes, because nobody planned this to happen, so behind the scenes were just people, regular people like us, who were trying to figure out a fridge and put it out, and there were conversations going, I have a fridge, does anyone need one? I need a fridge, does anyone have one? I can give food, I can transport things, I'm really good at logistics, I'm really good at admin. And suddenly there was this whole community, and behind the scenes, this group of women were literally working around the clock, because Ramadan. So Ramadan is around the clock, and people would get really active actually after iftar. And then now that we had all these roles that we had to play, like managing the Facebook group, being admin, reviewing posts, approving for people to come in. So this was totally not planned. This was kind of thrust upon us by the interest of the community. And what that tells us is that it was just, there was all this compassion simmering out there. People were trying to find a way to do something, and this was like, bingo, this is so simple. It's really easy to do. Either I host a fridge, or I find a fridge and I donate to the fridge. So easy, right? And that's how people started to get engaged, and this started to grow. I'm going to pause here, kind of as we've come to, like, that's 2016. And before I get into a little bit about how the organizations and corporates and sponsors, etc., started to get involved, and how we started to leverage technology and social media, I'm just going to invite Asma to talk a little bit about where I sit.
Thank you very much, Janine, and thank you for inviting me today. Well, basically today I am really privileged to be standing in front of you. In fact, I'm privileged to be standing in general. 10 months ago, actually I had been diagnosed with very rare complication while pregnant. And while in the hospital, I was told by doctors that I had just been saved and I escaped death in extremis. That was really hard, a very hard experience. The truth is, it was the start of something completely new. Life was never the same again. I really understood that there was something bigger to be done. There was so much love to give, there is so much more to do, and there is so much more to contribute to. In fact, I understood that to be really fulfilled and accomplished, we really have to go and be associated with things that are bigger than ourselves. It's really about serving. So for me, compassion is really this ability to connect at the deeper level to one another. It's really about seeing the suffering. It's really about understanding what we can do as a human being at our level to serve. And for me, Ramadan Sharing Fridges is something tangible, a translation of this willingness at the deeper level to serve. And this is where the question of compassion comes. What is really compassion? What do you think? What is compassion for you? Yes.
I think it's about empathy.
Yeah, I agree. I think really there is this component of empathy that makes us connect. It's really caring. It's really, just understanding that if there is a suffering and if another human being is suffering, we are not dissociated from his suffering. And that today and every day we are having the ability to change that, to contribute. And no act of kindness is too small. I remember when we were, for example, animating the fridge or just, talking to workers who were coming to help themselves. There is one guy, I think it was with you, Janine, I'm not sure, who came and said, "Thank you very much for this, actually." And we said, "Yeah, sure, please help yourself." And he said, "I've been in Dubai for 7 years and no one has looked at me in the eye." This is powerful. So, empathy is really going beyond the fear. It's really going beyond the judgment. It's really saying at every single moment of our life that if someone is suffering, well, probably I may be the same person. I mean, it may happen to me as well. So today, if I am in a position of privilege, in a position where I can bring value and change something for the better, it is not an opportunity. It's an obligation. I think we have the obligation to really raise the bar and really to serve each other. I think we have actually a mission in life to help, to connect, to go beyond every single, fear, judgment, and just to hold hands and give when we have things, because tomorrow we really have no idea in which situation or in which side actually of the privilege we will be at. And going back to Ramadan Sharing Fridges, when it I will let obviously Janine talk about sponsorship, etc. But there's just one thing that I wanted to add. Obviously, technology has been leveraged for the good. I mean, this is one example where technology can be an enabler of change, a catalyst of change, and it has been leveraged to create the movement. I really believe, though, that what really triggered the movement is the connection. Every single person actually in this community was waiting for an occasion to help and to serve, and we triggered that in them. So technology was an enabler. It was just a tool. It was not the goal. So Janine, I will let you take over for the rest of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Up until this point, are there any questions? Okay, so Asma brought a really important aspect of this out, which was about her personal connection with us. And everybody who got involved has a story too. And the reason that things become movements is when individuals connect at a very personal level, when they connect with a purpose. And that is stronger than a process or an instruction that someone could give you. And this is one of the big challenges that corporates have in creating culture, is how do you get your teams of people to really contribute and belong and feel like they love what they're doing. And that happens when you create a movement. So suddenly, we almost had like an organization. Because if you can imagine, you've got 25,000 people who are actively engaged in dialogue on this Facebook page. You've got now hundreds of fridges. There are logistical challenges, right? How do you get food where? How do you keep them clean? How do you keep them stocked? How do you handle, safety, security? It's like suddenly overnight, like we didn't want to be an organization. We didn't want to have a logistics manager and somebody looking about distribution and somebody figuring about health and safety. But it forced itself upon us. Behind the scenes were a group of, and it was men and women, a group of men and women who were, parents, partners, spouses, employees, employers, who still had to get on with their lives. So what was it that was driving people to, at the end of their busy day, or sometimes during their busy day, to make all this extra effort to go? And if you go to the Facebook page, you'll see some old posts of literally driving to, Masafi was one of our big sponsors this year, and they donated 350,000, 450,000, something crazy. And that immediately became a logistical nightmare for us. It's like, okay, great. Thank you so much. How on earth do we get this freaking water placed into fridges, right? So now we have to find warehousing. Now we have to figure out how to transport it from there. And so how many times we were there with our kids in the car, we'd get up, we'd be creating assembly lines, throwing stacks of water to load them into cars, and cars going in conveyors, convoys out to locations to distribute it, having like a focal point for an area, and that focal point will coordinate with their area to get the water to those fridges. I mean, it took on a whole other life. And we used to sit at meetings and say, hang on a second, we're in this because of that moment when the workers come and they see you and they smile and they're so excited because they feel special, they feel cared for, they feel really important, and that's what the Ramadan Fridges was all about. And there are some stories really that would really, really move you. There was once a guy who left a message on somebody's door saying, "Dear ma'am, I see you have a fridge. Please may I take something from the fridge? Please answer here." So, so she had to answer and said, "Of course you may." Then there's so many times guys at the fridge outside my house, they would come with a couple of things. So they'd come with a couple of lebanabs and fruit, And they kind of like, they felt like they wanted to contribute as well. So they'd come and they'd take something and they would put something in. And it made them feel really good, like, you know, they were kind of a part of this movement. There are tons and tons of interviews with people that you can listen to and watch online, where different people tell their stories. And there were a number of times when some of the workers invited the host, fridge, you know, the fridge host, over for a meal with them. And there was one lady who was new in Dubai, her and her family had just arrived like about 6 months ago, overwhelmed. I think she wrote like a 5-page essay about this, you know. And my family, we couldn't believe it, and we went with the kids, and you know, and they put on this spread, and we had iftar with them. So look what's happening here. All of the barriers are disappearing. There's no class, there's no, you know, wealth, there's no who's serving whom. It switched everything around. We were serving the community that serves us all the time. And I think that respect that was being extended. There was, again, in the photo that had the most number of likes of all the photos, if you can imagine, with 25,000, you know, how much banter was going on, was a photo of a worker holding these two little blonde kids with blue eyes and looking so happy, and the kids look so happy. And the mom said, you know, I'm writing this like with tears because my kids, we went to fill the fridge, and this gentleman came and he looked at the kids and he was smiling, and he looked at me and he asked me, he said, she said my kids were running off to him. They, you know, they were going to touch him. And he looked at me and said, may I hold them? And that was, you know, of course, caused a lot of dialogue about, are we forgetting that we are human beings? You know, these people that are working around us, that we kind of hardly look at each other and kind of just go through the motions. Are we forgetting these are parents, these are children of people, these are partners of people who they haven't seen, and they're sacrificing a lot to be here. And this was just the conduit and a catalyst to remind us to open our eyes, open our hearts, and, you know, kind of extend and touch and connect with the people we're just brushing past every day. They're just there, right? And we're just there in our world. And it's so easy in this environment, which is a very privileged environment, it's very easy sometimes to get blinded to what's really happening around us, and just to remember. So this raised awareness, and I cannot speak enough about how impactful this is for children. One example, at my kids' school, we organized a food packing event at a weekend, and you know, so all the classes contributed, everyone from all the kids brought in stuff, and then we had this big, like the whole cafeteria area was turned into this big factory, and everyone was coming, and in assembly lines they were filling up packs and then going and putting it, and then another team of people were picking up the packs and then going to distribute it, and there was, you know, going into different zones. And the children now are having those really important conversations about, why are we doing this? What's so important about giving? You know, who are these people? What do we have in common? Important dialogue. A really important change from what's my next phone going to be? What's the latest gadget I'm going to be using? So-and-so got new shoes. Why don't I have it? Which, as we know, might be the dialogue of a lot of children in the environments that they're interacting in on a daily basis. So suddenly they're using their pocket money to contribute, they're using their time to man the fridges, to go help with packing and unpacking, and they are having dialogues. There are a couple of kids who are writing blogs on the website, on our Facebook page, about their experience. Beautiful. If you go in, I really encourage you to go and look for those blogs. Beautiful, beautiful. Really amazing to see from a perspective.
What I mean is that even when in terms of our sponsorship strategy, because we needed obviously sponsorship and we needed water and milk and dates, etc. And we were scratching our heads in our meeting and saying, okay, so what is the strategy here? Are we doing a push or a pull? Are we advertising? Are we, And the thing is, we had to do nothing. Because the movement was so strong, so genuine, that we were merely a channel to receive the donation. Really, we didn't beg, we didn't ask. We were actually scheduling some meeting. We were receiving phone calls from amazing companies. Yeah. Some are sponsored, and we know who are they. And many didn't anonymous. Anonymous. They didn't even want us to mention them on our social media, etc. So what really happened, and this is what Janine was saying, is we managed, not we, but as people, but as a movement, we managed actually to trigger something in every single human being in the community, every stakeholder, and every single one was asking himself, what can I do? So if they were CEO and leaders or sponsorship manager, they were giving donation. There was this one student actually who wrote us something on Facebook page, and it was so touching. He's like, okay, I'm a student or in an internship, I don't have money, but I have time. Do you want me to go and pick up the grocery shopping, and I can collect your money and do it? And it's fabulous. Really, it was every single person, regardless of how much money they had or how much time they had, everyone wanted to bring something to the table. I think it's amazing. I think it's beautiful, and I personally believe that we knew that we were doing something right, but we will know that we will be succeeding and that we will be, we've done something bigger when we will see Hanukkah sharing fridges and Christmas sharing fridges and a festival of lights, exactly, Diwali sharing fridges, because I think that compassion is gender agnostic, religion agnostic. It's really about reconnecting with the human being that is in each of us.
The fridges were for everybody, and it was beautiful how so we started this in 2016 with a team of 5 people. And then in 2017, it was declared the year of giving, and we were like, that's definitely going to help us for the fridges. So then that made it, there's a great overarching banner of support for even more organizations to contribute. And then the team became 15 because managing now all of these, everyone, first of all, the phone is off the hook from the media. And the story has been covered by over 50 different agencies, I think even more, all over the world, all the way to, Huffington Post to Reuters, Daily, the Telegraph, like literally all over, and 1 billion Asian publications. And then the sponsorship was off the hook as well. And people contributing and donating, and everything from product to logistics, helping with transportation, people helping with storage, because there are all these different aspects, right? And as Asma was saying, year 1, 2016, we didn't have an official approval because it wasn't planned. It just became a movement during Ramadan. So, I think the government was very kind and appreciated what was happening, and we weren't approached, and we were kind of allowed to just continue to do good. However, that summer it became clear that there are formal ways that if you're going to be running, and now that we knew our size, we had to take ownership for doing things the right way. So for year 2, which was 2017, then we got approval to carry this out during the month of Ramadan. We get a lot of questions from people saying, and then what next? Like, is this going to be just Ramadan, or is this going to be throughout the year? And that is something that the team is thinking about. It's difficult to keep this going for long periods of time because it requires so much energy and so much commitment. It's easy for people to kind of, even people contributing, to think of a bite size. There's a beginning, there's an end. I can do this regularly and feel good, and okay, and then get back into my normal life. So this is, these are some of the reasons that the team has not necessarily responded to these questions on our Facebook page about what's the future and the form that it's going to be in. So there are many aspects we could talk about, but I'd like to ask you all first of all, have you been involved in the Ramadan Fridges? Are you part of our 25,000 community of 25,000? No? Great. So you are future parts of our you are our future community. Welcome, welcome. Okay, great. So what do you think about this story of compassion?
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's so good to be out of your daily life and just think about something bigger and something you can contribute to. But I remember I heard from the Sharing Fridges because we had like a group of people we worked together, and someone posted it on the group, and yeah, everyone, it's the same as you said, like once someone posted the link, every single person in the group was like, where is this? How can we do this? How can we get involved?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely like very infectious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations and thank you for sharing your story. It's amazing in terms of what you guys are doing. I live in Melbourne and I'm visiting here.
Okay.
And I'm sitting here thinking, what a fantastic movement. One of the things that's always gone through my mind is, you know, no one in this world really needs to go without any food or water.
At all.
And what are really countries that are privileged? What are we doing really to make that happen? And you think about so many underprivileged countries, and I'm sitting here thinking, is how do we take care, how can we work together to make this simple thing really more effective in countries which are really underprivileged and in countries that are privileged. And in Melbourne these days, or in Australia, you will see, although it's a privileged country, there are a lot of people who go without food or who don't have those privileges. And I'm thinking, how do I take this brilliant idea, and I might just talk to you guys after this, a little, and think about how we can, make this more, not only here in UAE, but take it more globally. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Well, there is something cooking.
That's
Yeah,
right.
so definitely. The other way that this government has supported, not necessarily support this initiative, they're doing their own efforts, making their own efforts, of course, in sharing food, is the food bank,
Yes.
which launched in 2017 under the banner of the Year of Giving, as well as the 100 fridges that the municipality has set up outside mosques. And that was coordinated actually with Ramadan. So in addition to the 170 fridges that the community provided themselves, as well as, by the way, this year we had quite a lot of donated fridges from some sponsors. There were also the government, the Dubai municipality fridges as well. And then the food bank, which is something we're also exploring how we can also leverage. Now is they're in the process of implementing a lot of great initiatives, working with hotels, and then also I think with some restaurants to ensure that food is not wasted, and that instead the food is properly and hygienically maintained, quickly transported to these central food banks and then distributed to the needy. So what we're going to try and figure out is if we can also tap into that too.
Yeah, that's good. And there is as well, what you said about no one has ever to go through the suffering of lacking food, or I think, and there are so many other, forms of suffering. I think what really probably not shocked us, but surprised us most is that when we were actually bringing those fridges and providing people with food and water, very few actually was seen in that, water and food. They were seeing it as an act of kindness, of caring. And so I really believe that there are so many causes that we can, help or, support, etc. And this can be a random act of kindness, even, as, CEOs or leaders or manager, how compassionate is their leadership? Mm-hmm. Are we going deeper to know our colleagues? What are we doing differently? What can we do differently? I think sharing Ramadan fridges can be taken abroad, and I think many things are happening. But really the idea here is, to ask ourselves, what can I do at my level, be it big or small, to contribute into changing the world? To really bring some humanity, some values into the center of what we do daily. I think this is where magic can happen. And then you won't even have to think about, should I leverage Facebook or Instagram or TV, etc. Magic just happens and it just spreads. When it's genuine and authentic, It just works. And probably this is one of the patterns of how a movement-based, a value-based movement actually can work. And the pattern that we identified is authenticity. Genuine, caring, compassionate action. And there is one thing as well. Thank you for when I asked about the definition of compassion, you said empathy. I think all of that is amazing. What makes the difference is acting on this emotion and on this definition.
Right.
And unless we make tangible action, initiative, talks, I don't know, donation, whatever, just phone call to your mom, maybe you don't know what she's going through. Unless we make it an action, it will just stay, bubbly, trendy, cool talks. And I think we all can do something.
I'm curious. I mean, this is a really, there's so much going on. Did you face any challenges managing the message as this scaled from a very small group to a much larger group?
Absolutely, and particularly this year. So the video we showed you from Nokia, and there are some other ones, that was really challenging for us. Facebook made a video, a lot of agencies did. That we started to face an ethical question where we're saying, now does this look like we're sponsored by? And eventually the reason we agreed to do that was twofold. The first was it was under their banner of hashtag great, what is it again? Do good.
The hashtag's not working.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Do good or
for
something. No, the Nokia hashtag. So they've got a hashtag which is Unite for Good. Thank you. Unite for Good. And it made sense. It was aligned. Our values were aligned with that as a movement, right? And of course, it had to be no advertising of Nokia on it. I mean, of course, at the end there's they're closing. And the second reason is they made some very significant contributions.
Yes.
So there was some tangible, great benefits we could share with the community, which really excited us. So they put the I guess I let the cat out of the bag because a part of that was the anonymity of it, which was supposed to be there. It's sort of announced because I haven't said what they contributed, but it was some really great things. So those two reasons, after quite a considerable time that they were pursuing us, and we had several meetings, and there were big debates with the committee about whether we should or should not do this movie. And then eventually we did. And how we describe it and how it's positioned, and when especially when sponsors started to get involved, that's when the questions started to come up. Can we put a sticker on the fridge? Can we or can you only use this product? And so we would always sit and go back to the values and the purpose of this. And the purpose of this is to share, to connect, to give. And anything that was going to distract us from that or become an impediment or a detractor from that, we refuse and decline. And there were several things
and it was very important to us because this question was about making sure that the message gets through and get not distorted, unfortunately, by greed or just by the will to promote. It's like the debate that we are having about CSR initiative, how promotional are they and how genuine are they. So really there is a fine line, but we had as well to trust our not only gut but our authentic willingness to be aligned with our values. So sometimes we were going into sponsor meetings and we could feel the guy just wants his sticker and his face on a fridge, and it was a no. And it was hard sometimes to take this decision because taking this decision would have any impact. Well, probably our workers need the money and need the water and need the milk of this, company. But then we wanted to stay true to ourselves. And we just wanted to take donation from people who really wanted to help the cause for something bigger than just having their rich. And I think it was the right choice because we had so many actually donations that it was hardly, and it was difficult to manage. I mean, we never run out of food or shirts or whatever, right?
That's right. I just thought about another reason I think that this was so successful, in addition to the great reach that the social media platform allowed us, is the fact that the people involved, the team that was running it, really were people with a lot of the right skills to manage and organize and mobilize this very effectively. Because it could have gone a lot of ways. It could have just been a very big mess with so many people trying to help and nobody, no order to be allowed. But to have, thank God, no incidents, no big issues or really credibility question marks, I think is really attributable to the skills of the people who are behind it, which brings me to the point that I think thinking about our corporate roles and our skills and looking at are we connecting with compassion and bringing compassion into our roles. So even if we work a lot with entrepreneurs, when you're thinking of ideas, when you're innovating, are you ever thinking about also compassion being one of the drivers behind that? How are we helping to make the world a better place, as opposed to just how are we going to make money, because that's not a purpose. You can make money many ways, but that is not something that is going to create a tribe, create a community, and create a movement that is lasting. So I believe these values and connecting people at that level can bring you the best in everyone and the best sustainable results. Hi.
So one of the things that Mark said was that it really resonated with me. That a laborer told once that he hadn't even experienced eye contact, and that's something that's very appalling. But I know that it exists, and I personally have always been the kind of person who doesn't really see class, but often even as kids, even today I'm 20, and yet my parents are like, why are you talking to him? Because safety and everything, which I'm not going to comment on because I see where they're coming from. But what really stood out to me about your initiative was that it's more hands-on. Like, you have a lot of fundraisers out there, not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's no interaction directly with the people that you claim you're helping. And what really stands out to me is how hands-on your initiative is, and that's why I'm going to be definitely on board whenever I've got the summer and winter break.
Yeah. Did you hear the story about the lady with her kids at the beginning? Because I think, that was the main driver. If you look at the history of the conversations even from 2016, you'll see that the ones that were most popular and engaged the audience, the community most, were exactly about that, about people communicating, having conversations, finding out about these people and their families and where they come from and what they do. And a lot of these workers have got children back home, and their ability to interact with your kids and our kids is a really big deal. And that is one of the moments of connection that has a great double, actually 3 times value, because it's a value for the worker, there's a value for the child and learning that there's nothing wrong with speaking to everybody, we're all humans, and then there's a value for the parent who either goes through that aha moment of, oh my God, yes, I didn't realize I was doing that, or is genuinely just happy that they're able to contribute.
Exactly.
Very key.
And when you talked about fear and that your parents were fearful that you go and talk to others, I think it's a normal human reaction. We always fear people that we don't know, and we fear what we ignore. And so really for me, how we can translate compassion into tangible result is to go beyond this fear, which is natural, which is intuitive. And second one, when you were talking about fundraising, so I think I got your point when you were trying probably to compare association or charities, etc. And probably there was, if I understood what you confirm, were you talking about the transparency in using the funds? So for example, right? So for us, actually, we made a choice, the conscious choice, to not accept money. So we're taking donations, and at the time, that was the choice because for us it was something that will be easy to, transparency into managing this would be easy for us. So,
plus then we don't have all the legalities of as soon as you start dealing with money, it becomes really complicated.
Yeah.
Then it really becomes a corporation.
Where do you live online? Which Facebook group you have, or really? I looked all over. I didn't know which one is you. Because you have Ramadan Fridges and you have the Sharing Fridges and you have a
Can we
closed
put the
group and an open
hashtags
group.
up?
Ramadan Sharing Fridges.
Yeah, Ramadan Sharing Fridges in the UAE is what it's. We'll put the hashtag.
So it's only a Facebook group, right? It's a group.
Actually, now there are two. There's a
No.
Facebook page as well that we are. So we were advised by Facebook. They're giving us. They're giving us some help. You know, with okay, now that you're growing up, maybe you want to try doing things the right way because we were just winging it. So that's probably what we're going to be promoting is the Facebook page.
What, promoting without promotion, actually?
Yeah, promoting
Till
meaning
now,
using.
we did zero ad.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Although we might also start. These are some of the ways that we're growing and evolving. As we might start now, doing things a little bit differently with the spirit still being the same, of course. But yeah, so there's a page and there's a group. There's a group, as James said, it's closed. It's a closed group. So can you imagine the admin load of approving people and managing and content and all of that? Yeah.
So we go to the page.
Yeah. You can go to wherever you like to. Just if you want to see the history, it's in the group.
Okay.
But the future will be in the page. Yeah.
And so there's one of the challenges you must face is you've got all these people who are involved, who have got their Instagrams and their Twitters and their LinkedIns and their Facebook things, and they're talking about this and then hashtagging you guys in and directing people back.
Yeah.
That's just as you were talking about, just the admin of your social media. How do you deal with that? Because it's got to be overwhelming.
Well, that we had to have roles and responsibilities. So these 15 people, the reason there were 15 is because we had people in charge of PR, people in charge of all sponsorship, and people in charge of logistics and distribution and health and safety and coordinating with the fridge managers. Literally, government. It had to be assigned as and everybody was totally busy. The volume of requests from media, the volume of requests from sponsors, and there's a whole filtration process, out of control. And the thing is, now coming into the third year, 2018, there's a legacy. So now they're bringing in a legacy of sponsors, people who want to get involved. So we're already planning our meetings to get started. Imagine now. Ramadan is still like 9 months away, and still starting to think and plan.
There must be more questions. I'm just obviously monopolizing as I do on all of these things. It's really just for me. But one last thing, and then we'll see if there's any more, and then I know people have got to get going as well as yourselves. But then there's the other side that I'm just curious how you manage some of the celebrity involvement. So like Chris Fade, and I would watch the videos of Chris and his kids and folks, and all I kept thinking was, wow, so now you've got his whole umbrella that's getting involved, and getting involved with you guys, and you've still got the everyday to day of just running the fridges, and sure, you've got these 15 people who are doing things, but this is adding yet another level of complexity to the whole thing, as there's now multiple messages going out, and you're trying to keep it all on message.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Chris Fade was involved since the first year. He was a very big supporter. So we've been on the radio several times. Of course, we've been on the radio with yourself as well. And he loves to kind of come and get hands on and do demonstrate that through his social media, which again is another activator for more involvement and more response and more interest being expressed. So this year, especially with the films that were being made, and those of you involved in production know how much time goes into this. So that brought on, there were times when the team would get together and we would be like, what are we doing? Have we totally lost the plot? Right? Because, we're scheduling who's going to be where for this shoot, and there was, it's not always rosy. We go through ups and downs like everyone else does, and why are we spending so much time doing these videos? Well, it's helping spread the mess well, so it did. This year especially, where the influencers' involvement, the making movies, suddenly, we were like involved in that. There were multiple big productions where the committee especially really had to work hard to keep our hands on the ground and our feet on the ground, and luckily most of us have a fridge outside our home, so we come home and go, there you go, here we are, this is why we're in this, and you sit down and talk, and you're like, okay, I'm centered, you know, after being in hours-long meetings and thinking, no, this feels too corporate.
Exactly,
You come
the
back.
corporate thing, and you know there is
And you don't want that, and you just don't want that. But it's necessary now to keep this machine going when it's so big, right? But then you come back and you say, here I am, sit, it's quiet now, whatever, sit by the fridge, meet and connect, and all's good again.
actually of one funny story. I mean, it's funny now. Of one company production company. Obviously, we won't say the name. Who wanted to give us visibility and talk about the initiative, and so say, yeah, great, amazing, we will have more impact, etc. And then we receive in our email mailbox scripts.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I don't think we're learning
we are not going to be on you know, in front of your camera with scripts and doing some acting.
Yeah.
Either you are amazing enough to capture the spirit of the initiative, or you are not welcome. And again, you know, with celebrities, etc., obviously, at a certain point we have to trust our guts and have our own ethical filters, because we identified quickly people who came because they really genuinely want to help and leverage their, you know, fame or followers or etc. to serve the cause. And others who just wanted, you know, more exposure. So it was a hard, tricky work to do, but it was a necessity. We had to do it, right?
Yeah. And we just grew together. And the only way, I think our only mantra was to keep it real was stay true to the purpose, which is compassion and love and sharing.